Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, good morning everyone. This is the mining industry that we operate in, and so mines typically work very much on a schedule. So we're 1 minute after 10, so this is why we're starting. Anybody who arrives now is actually officially late. That's just the way our business has to operate. So tremendously pleased that those of you who have come to visit us today, that you're here, because many people are not. We had over 60 people registered to be here. So we're delighted that you've come in person for this event. I have a few housekeeping issues to deal with first. First of all, just to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee and the Wyandot peoples, as well as diverse nations from many different cultures, and of course the Inuit and Métis. So that is the acknowledgement here in Toronto. As an organisation that's based in Sudbury, however, we also have a traditional territory in Sudbury, and that's the Atikameksheng, Anishinaabe First Nations, part of the Huron Treaty of 1850, and also nearby, adjacent to the city of Sudbury, we have the Whitefish Lake First Nation and the Wanapitei First Nations. So there we are, we've covered all the bases, and since many of us actually drive long distances between Toronto and Sudbury, Ontario, there are several Mohawk reserves between here and there, and we travel through their traditional territory as well. So we've now covered off all the traditional territories that have anything to do with our organisation in its core business. So there we are. Second most important thing is washrooms. This door here, turn left, there are washrooms at the end. It's a very small washroom. If you go out through the main doors and turn right, there's another set of washrooms. And in an emergency, there are other washrooms below us, down below. If you want to go down the escalators, there's a much larger washroom down there. So those are the washroom facilities. In the case of an emergency and we have to exit the building, the easiest way is through those doors behind you there. But please be sure to turn left towards the exit stairs, because if you turn right, that is a dead end. So you're going to have to come all the way back again. For those of you who want to go through the main doors to exit, then you can travel to the right or to the left in the main foyer. But anyone who has any kind of disability should go straight ahead from these doors through the doors on either side of the archway, and you'll find ramps to the exit that takes you down onto College Street. So those are all the important issues for our physical safety, etc. So here we are. If I can move this on to the next, just a small explanation of who CEMI is and who MICA is. So CEMI is our organisation, the Centre for Excellence in Mining Innovation. It's a very long name, and we prefer just to call ourselves CEMI. It was started way back in 2007 by two major mining companies. At that time, they were Inco and Xstrata, and we were there defined as a not-for-profit based in Sudbury to do just basically to help the mines solve their problems. And since our core members were both large underground operating companies, that was our primary focus. That's broadened now. So now we're in the business of advancing innovations that will help us find more ore, mine more safely, productively and effectively, generate more value from mines, because we typically rely exclusively on the 1%, 2% or 3% of grade that companies are focused on, and we believe we need to move to a more holistic process for all of the resource, so that we can generate more value from mines and have a more benign impact on the environment and a more beneficial impact on society. This is the MICA network that we have. It's established 2 years ago now, and we have 6 main partners across the country, beginning with BRIMM out west, then College of the North Atlantic on the extreme east in the Maritimes. We have Innotech Alberta, Mars here in Toronto, Group MISA in Quebec, and Sask Saskatoon Polytechnic in the Prairies, based in Saskatoon. So those are our 6 main partners that help us to get the granularity we need to see the kinds of innovations that exist in the industry across the country. It can't all possibly be done from Ontario, and we have to have those important partners in different parts of the country. The other thing we try to do with the granularity that we have across the country is to find innovations in other sectors of the economy that mining can use. There is innovation happening in every sector of the economy, and some of it is absolutely spectacular work that's being done. And in many cases, it has some application to the mining sector that would improve the performance of the mining sector. So we're there to find other innovators in other sectors that we can use their technologies to help improve the performance of the mining sector. But what we've discovered, of course, is none of them are coming to talk to us. They all have their own clientele and their own businesses to run in their own sectors, and so unless we go to talk to them, they are very unlikely to come and talk to us about how their technologies can help the mining sector. So first of all, we go there to talk to them to find out what they can do to help us. And second of all, even when we do find things that are of great value for the industry, they usually have very little interest in coming to work with the mining sector directly. And that's the other source of help that we have here. We have now well over 100 SME members, all who have businesses in the mining sector and are trying to grow their businesses in the mining sector. And we will rely on those SMEs to adopt some of those other technologies from those other sectors, because they already understand how the mining sector operates. They can take those innovations from those other sectors, add them on to the service provisions that they make already, and expand their businesses by taking on those other innovations. So this is a two-way street for innovation for us. Yes, we have our own focus, and you are part of our focus today because of the funding that we've been able to award, and that's where we're going. This is just a list of projects. I'm going to leave this mostly to my colleagues in the MICA team, Charles and Kyle, who will describe these in detail. But that's just to say the four themes that we had: productivity, energy reduction, autonomous mining systems, and environmental impact. Those are the things that we need to do for the future. And I'll leave Charles and the team to talk about that in detail. This is really the crux of the issue today, vis-a-vis climate change. These are the kinds of demands that we have for increases in the amount of copper that we will need to make the energy transition. It's a very dire, daunting prospect to produce 5 times more copper than we do now. Now, probably that won't be necessary in the next 10 to 20, 30 years, but because we will actually have a decade or so of technological improvements, the chemistry for batteries is already changing, for example. So technological advances on the demand side will mean that we will actually probably need less than 5 times the copper. Nevertheless, even 2 times the amount of copper is beyond the current conventional mining sector to produce. So these numbers are critical. And when we look at the targets that we have for climate change, we will have to achieve numbers like this in the next 2 decades to have any chance of maintaining the target of 1.5 degrees temperature increase globally by 2100. So this is the daunting prospect we face, and this shows how important the mining sector is, because although we've often thought of ourselves as a backwater in the industrial economy, we are actually now the single most important industry on the planet, because if the industry does not produce those metals for those other sectors to change the greenhouse gas footprint, then nothing much will change. So you can see the mining sector is roughly about 9% greenhouse gas production for globally, and 7% of that is actually the steel industry. So the non-ferrous mining sector is no more than 2% of the global greenhouse gas footprint. However, 70% of greenhouse gas output comes from manufacturing, infrastructure, transportation, cement and chemicals. Those 4 sectors produce more than 70% of all the other greenhouse gases. And they cannot change their businesses without a great deal more metal and minerals that has to be produced by the non-ferrous mining sector. So that is why this particular part of the mining sector is now the single most important player in the entire future of the planet, because climate change is an inexorable process, and we have to be making this transition and this transformation of the mining sector as fast as possible. And all of the innovators that we've been able to fund through the MICA program so far, including yourselves now, are the major players in making that happen. We hope to be much larger and much more influential in the future, but for today, you are the main event, and so with that, I'm going to ask Charles to come up and take over for the rest of the program. That's it. Thank you.